Tonight on Prime Business, Ghanaians to pay more for electricity bills as ECG pressures the PLC to increase tariffs by 148% to cover the period of 2019 and 2022. We have details as the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, says government will not be in the position to subsidize.
If energy prices is going to go up, every segment of the value chain in energy has to go up. And to the extent that, street lights consume power, that tariff cannot stay the same.
We have this and other business stories lined up for you after this break. If government fails to subsidize your electricity tariff, you could pay for an astronomical increase in light bills from August as the ECG is demanding a 148% increase in tariff. A proposal from the power distributor submitted to the PLC wants the adjustments to cover the period 2019 and 2022. The ECG has subsequently proposed an average increase of 7.6% in tariff over the next 4 years to cover distribution service charges. Charles Nixon-Yeboah has been looking through the proposal and has filed this report.
ECG attributed the high increase in the distribution service charge to the gap that has developed over the years between the actual cost recovery tariff and the PRC approved tariffs, as well as the cost of completed projects. It also mentioned the continual application of the prevailing tariff, which was 14% lower beyond the stipulated regulatory period, and the effect of macroeconomic factors such as inflation and exchange rate fluctuation. The power distributor again pointed out that financial sustainability is important as it impacts on the entire energy sector. With the huge investment needs facing the distribution industry over the next 5 years, ECG said it expects the proposed tariff increases would inevitably be approved to sustain efficiency and reliable electricity service. The ECG, however, recommended an engagement with the PRC on the determination of the defined threshold for a lower tariff for non-residential or commercial customers. The company seeks the support of government to introduce a streetlight tariff to enable it to properly account for full cost of streetlight consumption. It also anticipates that government would support its financial sustainability by absorbing all costs associated with excess capacity charges.
But can government intervene through subsidies to cushion power consumers? Executive Director of ACEP Ben Boachi tells Joy Business that any attempt for a $1.5 billion subsidy could crumple Ghana's already fragile economy.
Obviously, if energy prices is going to go up, every segment of the value chain in energy has to go up. And to the extent that, street lights consume power, that tariff cannot stay the same. So it will also be adjusted. But to what extent? I think on Wednesday, there will be a discussion where we would have to interrogate the numbers that ECG will present. And they will have to show clearly how they will reduce the waste and inefficiencies for us to continue to pay the tariff that they always want to push on the consumer. If you do not reduce the inefficiencies, the tendency is that people will still have room to steal power. So what you're going to do is to pile the burden on the few honest, legitimate customers that you do have. And many people, many businesses still continue to steal power and not pay for it. So those are significant questions that we want ECG to address when we meet PRC and the stakeholders on Wednesday.
Well, Joy Business understands that the recent intermittent power outages across some parts of the country are due to gas shortage. The power plants that rely on gas have switched to light crude oil and diesel fuel oil to run their plants. Now, this is expected to impact the cost of operations of businesses. There is more in this report.
According to information gathered by Joy Business, there's currently a shortfall or deficit of about 364 megawatts of power in the country. This has compelled the power authorities to shed load at Kaswa, Pokuase and Almaso power plants in the central, Greater Accra and Ashanti regions. The situation is said to have started 3 months ago and keep worsening. Joy Business gathers that Twin City and Sen Power currently run on light crude oil, while Scar Power is still down together with the combined cycle unit at Tico at Abuate in the western region. We further understand that managers of the Ghana Grid Company and the Electricity Company of Ghana over the weekend visited these power stations to ascertain the current situation. The operators of these power plants, however, promised to restore the load shed when gas pressures improve and additional generation units come on board.
Well, meanwhile, Executive Director of the Institute of Energy Security, Nana Emuesi VII, has urged government to publish a true state of Ghana's power sector to enable businesses plan amidst the intermittent outages. His comment follows a report of gas shortages affecting thermal plant in Takoradi. Speaking on the issue, Nana Emuesi VII said government must be transparent to help businesses plan ahead of these power cuts.
The trippings could, affect gas supply as well. One, the compressors that are pumping this gas from Atuabo have the same power or gets their power source from the same grid. And so if there is no seamless changeover to a standby plant, then of course it will be difficult to get the gas to this thermal plant. Also, when the power plant tripped and the compressors went down, it would take some time to get the shutdown valves to be activated. And so that's the challenge that we pick from the IES decks, if you ask.
Okay, and so we are told that they're now using light crude and diesel fuel oil. I'm just wondering, how sustainable is that?
Yes, when the trip occurred and gas pressures went low, some plants had to rely on fuel oil and light crude oil. As we speak, we get indication that T1 and T2 are back running on gas. Unfortunately, the steam components of these two plants are not back because when you trip this way, it takes some time and a lot of work to get them back into the stream. But it became quite worrying that almost 3 days after this incident, government is tight-lipped, become quite suspicious. And so we urge government to speak to the issue for Ghanaians to understand what exactly is happening, and that will shape our mind and our focus going forward.
Now, we have heard a lot of talk about boosting local production to ensure there is enough food supply. And is it time, actually, to seriously consider genetically modified crops? Well, Dr. Daniel Osei-Ofosu is senior research scientist with the Biotechnology and Nuclear Agric Research Institute. He's been speaking on the marketplace.
Nitrogen is usually the base for most of the fertilizers. So we have nitrogen use-efficient crops that we can engineer. Another issue, and I think was mentioned just before this, was the issue of rains. The average farmer in Ghana does not have access to irrigation facilities. When you expect it to rain, it doesn't rain. And when it rains, it comes in torrents. We are able to engineer crops that use water efficiently, so very little water. We also have crops that can switch on and off their genes, such that if there's a flood, it just takes just the amount of water it needs, and if there's no flood, it goes to its normal use of water.
And we have more business news on myjoyonline.com/business. I'm Charles Ayitey, ending Prime Business, but please stay with Journalists because we have Prime Sports coming up shortly with Gabriel Smith.